folks, welcome to Premium Fuel Mag. We are here today back in Stu's garage with the 5.0 Drift Miata. And as you guys should have seen already, we completed our first track day. And we did get through it with the car, but I have to say the car was about a 6 out of 10. That's passing, but with a D. So no, it's not a failed build. It's just got some issues that we got to iron out. So with the car being on the track for the first time and me having virtually no experience driving it before that, there's definitely some me getting to know the car issues that need to be addressed, but there's also a lot of bugs within the car that we were able to kind of shake out and expose some deficiencies in the build, some things that were incorrect on the build, and just be able to hash those items out. So back over to my trusty whiteboard. It's always good to organize your ideas so that you don't forget things and that you can kind of set goals and know where you're at. We've got a list of things here that we need to look at. So first and foremost, I knew this going into the track day. The car was always unstable. I did a few street pulls with it before track day, and right around 60 miles an hour, it gets this kind of tank slapper thing going where it kind of wants to swerve left and right, where if it drives straight, but if I was to take my hand off the steering wheel, it would go off the road. It would definitely go off the road, and it's very difficult to keep this car going in a straight line above 60 miles an hour. And that's something that's really strange to me. So alignment wise, we did get the alignment professionally done. We've got 5 degrees camber in the front, we've got 0 in the rear, we've got 0 toe, 0 camber, front toe was at 0. I did mess with that a little bit with the instability. So I towed it in 1 thread. I don't know whether or not that was good. So with drag cars, normally you run a little bit of toe in just to give the car a little bit more stability going down the track. So I figured maybe with the dynamic suspension movement, maybe it was getting some toe out and it was becoming unstable. I'm not really sure. I talked to my buddy Thomas Miata, who you're gonna see here coming up in the next few videos, and he was saying the opposite. He was saying maybe if the car has some weird bump steer issues, it might be towing in causing instability. So I don't know. Either way, I do know that I do not have the correct bump steer kit on this car. So that's something that I need to get my hands on, and we need to set this thing correct before we start messing with some things. The last alignment spec that I forgot to mention is we've got about 5 degrees of caster. And not that the majority of you guys even care what those numbers mean, but I'm hoping that somebody out there in the drift community will hear these numbers and be able to tell me or give me a little bit of advice or input as to what might be screwy with this car. Now 5 degrees is not a lot for a drift car. Normally you want to be in like the 6, 7, 8 range. You can run more than that, but you don't really need to. But 5 degrees is the most we could get into this. And I don't really know why, but we could only get it to 5 degrees. Another thing that I knew going into this track day was that the suspension felt really soft. I mean, this car is super comfortable to ride in. It feels like an OEM car, like if you were just gonna go cruising around in a stock car. The problem with that is it drifts like a stock car on the track, which is a little bit sloppy and a little bit unpredictable. Now I was advised on what spring rates to get front and rear. I deviated from that slightly because of supply and demand issues, and I think that was a mistake. So I've got some much harder springs coming on the way. And that should actually help me out with wheel clearance issues, which is another issue that we had. So again, I knew this going into the track day that we were touching our tires. I couldn't figure out where because I had cleared out enough space up here, but it's actually catching right up here near the front. So, and now I'm seeing that that's even on my fender flare, which is not good, but we're gonna have to get in there and clearance that out a little bit. The harder springs is definitely gonna help with that. Now, as far as wheel clearance issues goes, I was looking in here the other day to try and figure out what my springs are, and I noticed something else that I want to show you guys. Alright, so here we are inside the wheel well, and the first thing that you're going to see is we've definitely got some rubbing going on all the way through the inner fender well. And when I spoke to Thomas and told him about my issues that the car was over centering, which basically means that when you get to a certain angle, the steering wheel kind of wants to stick there. It just kind of goes to one side and it sticks. He asked me about wheel rubbing issues, and I didn't realize that I was having this much rubbing going on. So that's something that needs to be addressed. And also down here, as you can see, we've actually got some wheel shavings. So that means that my wheel was actually hitting the control arm and shaving off on the control arm. So we've got some major clearance issues going on here. Now, I am running 17-inch tires here on this Miata, which is huge. That's like putting 20s on a Mustang on my Fox body and driving with that. This car was designed to run with like 14-inch wheels. And I'm not completely against the idea of running a smaller wheel, like a 16-inch Mustang wheel or something. Even though I love the way the 17s look and it goes with my Mustang everything theme, the problem is I would end up having to get a whole nother set of wheels for this car, and I've already got a ton of wheels and I don't have a ton of space, and logistically it just doesn't make sense for me to get another set of wheels. The best thing for me is to be able to share parts between this car and the Mustang, and it takes up less space and it costs less money, and it's just easier for me to maintain. So looks aside, I'm still going to be sticking with the 17s, and we're going to be able to make this work. So we're going to put harder springs up front. We may raise it up a half an inch, and that may give us the clearance that we need in here. Alright, so as you can see here, we're at full lock and we've got clearance everywhere. There's the tie rod end, or rather my homemade extended tie rod ends. And back here, it's really hard for you to see, but back here where I'm pointing, there's about 2 inches worth of clearance between the wheel and the control arm, and probably about 4 inches down there below. So there's tons of clearance if you look at this thing when it's at full lock. But just by me pushing on this with my hand, I don't know, you guys can't really see it, but it moves, and that's just me pushing on it with my hand. So, you know, we got 2,000 plus pounds of car behind it at speed. There's going to be some flexing there, so I don't know what's causing that, but we're going to start by putting the correct bump steer kit on there, and hopefully that'll clear up a majority of our issues. Now, another thing that we're going to address is my exhaust sits way too low. It's almost impossible for me to jack up the car from this side just because of the way that I've run the exhaust. It looks really cool, and I'm not going to change the way that it looks, but I'm going to try some flattened out rectangular pipes so that it'll actually be a true NASCAR style exhaust. We'll see how that works, and I'm definitely going to show that to you guys in a later video. We're not going to mess with that today. What we are going to do today is another major issue was the clutch stopped fully disengaging. It got worse throughout the day to the point where now I have to turn the car off to put it in reverse. I thought that my transmission was going out. I'm kind of relieved to see that it was a clutch issue, but at the same time, I don't know what to do to fix it. If my transmission was breaking, I could just fix the transmission or get it fixed. With the clutch not disengaging, I just don't really know what to do. Maybe it got air in it, I don't know. So I'm gonna try and bleed the clutch and see if I can improve that. And if it can't, I don't know. And lastly, down here in the rear end, you can see my diff mount right there, and I had 2 rubber bushings in there, and there were bushings that I never should have used. They were way too soft, and they ruptured and they fell out, and I wanted to just screw it back in straight to the subframe, but the screws are too long and they were hitting the sway bar, which you see there in black. So what I actually did is I used 2 of my pass-through sockets out of my toolkit and used those as a spacer to hold my diff in the car. Now this isn't good. It needs to be able to flex a little bit, not a lot. So it's basically solid mounted in there right now. So we need to pull those out and put some real bushings on there. For some reason the baby likes to watch when I do work. He thinks it's really funny. Alright guys, so we fixed one major issue. and that was me not being able to put the car in gear and having to turn it off to actually shift from reverse to forward and forward to reverse. During the track day, I thought something was wrong with my transmission. Later on, I started to suspect that there was a clutch issue, and it turned out not to be anything serious. The clutch pedal was actually just bent. So I'm gonna do some research on the Miata groups and see what I can do. I've already bent it back, but it's gonna bend again, and I need to figure out what I can do to fortify that and reinforce it to keep it from happening again. Not enough to cross this off the list, but we're just gonna put a little ugly star next to that and keep it moving and try to figure out the rest of these issues. All right, so we're pretty much gonna wrap up this video here. Normally when I put videos out, I've already figured out the solution by the time the video is out, and you guys always give me suggestions, and it's already basically too late. But in this case, I haven't actually started work on the car yet before I put this video out. Thomas is going to come by and help me out, but I definitely would like to hear any suggestions that you have. If you have any knowledge that I don't have, if you can help me with my cooling system and my rear mount radiator and try to give me some tips on how to properly bleed that. Yes, I've jacked up the car and done the highest point and all of that stuff. If you specifically dealt with a rear mount radiator, I would love to hear from you. If my alignment specs mean anything to you, I will definitely take your suggestions, or if you're a Miata driver, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. The other issues, I don't know, I think right now these are the most serious. This is an easy fix, this is an easy fix, this is an easy fix. That's a little bit more involved fix. We've got our serious issues here, which I don't have a solution for, and then we got the easy stuff over here that's just gonna take time to get done. So that's pretty much it, folks. Thanks for watching the video, and thanks for coming along on this journey. Let me know what you think of the car, and if you have any suggestions for me on how to get this thing fixed up, and we'll catch you on the next one.